The Old Tube Radio Network. Yeah, that was copyrighted stuff. Google YouTube. Hello to all you out there on Google YouTube where the video is just starting. Doesn't like that kind of stuff, but that's the way it goes on the Universal Media Netweb. Hello to those listening on 27085 Channel 11 in the Central Valley of California. The Old Tube Radio Network on the air a little bit late was out. I was down in the Tower District putting all the equipment away from the FM radio station. We were doing a live broadcast today for a fundraiser, but that is over. And now we're going to do some fun radio where we listen for and talk about and talk with those tube radios, the vintage radios from 1958 to 1978 in the Class D Citizen Radio Service. We might occasionally grab onto an 11-meter radio that's before that time, and that's okay. But basically what you'll be hearing tonight after the roll call of the shortwave listeners will be the classic tube radios that you might be familiar with, you might even have in your own collection. So we will be listening for that. Also, it is the top of the new 8-week roster on the shortwave listener list, and Bozo Control, who is somewhere around here, has made it so that I can pull one of our perfect attendees out of the jar here. Let me see. And I have somebody, because I can't get the roll call started until the SWO 35. Mr. Bill, did he have perfect attendance? Oh, yeah, in fact, on that roster, I think he was actually in town here at one of the times. So there you go. That's can't even read somebody's writing. SWL 35, Mr. Bill, who we are hoping to hear when the conditions are right. We used to hear him all the time when he was here in Fresno, making sure that there were a lot of radios to be on the air in the tube radio type mode. So let me say that if you're listening at oldtuberadio.net, hello to you. And we have been on the air on Saturday evenings starting at 8 p.m. for well over 30 years, to recreate what it might have sounded like on Saturday night at 8 p.m. well over 30 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. Here we go. Top of the list, our new SWL. Thanks to Mr. 77, who did a great job for the last 8 weeks. And I think what I have to do is go over to the big page and see if Mr. Bill has checked in. Let me refresh. And where is he? Is he there? See, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. Oh, there you are, Bill. If you're listening, you are the 00. So let me get you checked in officially on the page, and we will continue on. Thanks for, and let's see, you are, where were you? You were remotely traveling around this week at one of the truck stops, helping out the vehicles there and putting in radios and providing equipment. So thanks for that. Maybe your service, although greatly missed here in the Central Valley, is still going strong up there in the north. And I'm sure they appreciate it. We appreciate all you did for us. Here we go. 00 is checked in. We'll call you again at 35 SWL number 1 that always manages to get a check-in as he oversees net control here, trying to get things going. SWL number 2, who often checks in and hangs out at the video portion at Google YouTube, and Mr. OPP is out there reporting as ordered. Thank you, Kevin. And he is a knowledgeable guy, so he can often answer questions if you have them. Not sure how long you'll be staying around tonight, Mr. OBP, but thanks for checking in. One of our net controllers, one of the original authors of the Old Tube Radio Network here back in the days when whatever channel you might have been on when the channels were busy 30-something years ago, switching down to channel 11 on your Old Tube Radio for some decompression and some great talk, just talking about radios and things like that, just like we all used to do. Check in from SWL3. I was asked to check in Rob, and I will do that. SWL4. Jingle singers around here somewhere. I was going to start off the program, and then I looked over in the other studio, and they were not around, so they should be back here in a little bit. SWL5. SWL6. SWL7. thought I heard 7 in there earlier. And we go to SW11 and 12 with check-ins from the email side over to SWL13. And I will keep an eye out at oldtuberadio.net, which is a good way to check in if you can't quite get in on the RF zone. Many of you do it that way, and many of you also just saying hello. We'll check that out in a little bit here, see who might be listening, who is new. SWL 14, SWL 15. And I think what I will do on the video side, let me switch over to the less than stellar S meter. You will be able to give, oh, that's not the S meter. That's the Orban loudness meter. Let's save that for later. Let's go to, well, you can give yourself a report. If you're 9 pounds, good modulation at Chestnut and Herndon, you will know it because the video will be there. Did I call SWL 15? I think I did. SWL 16? SWL, shortwave listener. Many of us started out as shortwave listeners with our walkie-talkies or our Helicrafters shortwave radios and a piece of wire listening into foreign broadcasts and wherever. So good to have you all out there listening tonight. SWL 17, SWL 18. Let's see, skip over to SWL 20.
Can you hear me, Dennis?
I can hear you, over.
Okay, I may be very limited tonight. My switch box went out about 10 minutes ago. Couldn't hear anything. So I finally figured out what it was and was able to get one radio to plug in direct. So here we are. But I'll see if I can get it fixed because I have something else to check in and I won't be able to do it. Okay, unless I can fix everything. Okay, number 20, number 29, and number 54, if you would check us all in.
22954. I will do that. I'm glad to have you at the microphonium. I thought a switch box was a passive thing. How can it go out? But I'm sorry to hear that because we would like to check in many things from you. Well, find the radio that works, and since you're in the shack tonight, make sure you take a few key-ups because we always enjoy your input, questions to input. I think we're going to have some questions about a Helicopter CB3A tonight. On the microphonium side, might even have a few check-ins, so stay tuned for that. Thanks, Harvey. You are sounding good. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, I hear you fine. I just have to figure out what to do here. Hopefully, it's the main switch and it's one or two connections. That's it. Okay, catch you later.
I hate it when those connections don't work. I sat down and I had to fish a few things that were going on here that weren't working correctly, but that's kind of standard operating practice here at Old Tube Radio Net Control, where the old things don't work quite as well. SWL 21, Mr. JT, I'm not sure if you were probably on tonight. I was not in the shack until very late, so I missed what JT does. DD21 runs the old radio at night, similar to what we do here, but vintage radios from tubes and not tubes. He does a cool way of focusing his video on the radio, which I think is absolutely the way to do it, because the radio is the star, right, on the radio networks here. And so hopefully you guys got some skip conditions tonight. Mr. JT, if you're listening, let me scan up the band here, scan up the list. Yeah, the ground rod is requesting a check-in. We do have the ground rod checking in. He said he had to work late tonight. Is that the same thing? So maybe you had the same thing going on. Both had to. All the radio hosts had to work late tonight, playing radio or doing whatever we're supposed to do. Thanks, JT. Out there at the Wasama Swamp, over to SWL 22. SWL 23. SWL 24.
24 checking in.
And 24 is checking in. Hello, sir. Joseph's on the list. And chalk up 1 for this 8-week period as well. Thanks for listening in.
Copy that. I'm on my way to bed.
Yeah, it gets tougher during the summer, doesn't it? I used to have those early calls, and it's like it's still light. You're tired, but it's still bright, and everybody's up, and the window's open. You smell the barbecue, and people are splashing in the pool. So now I'm making it worse than it is. But I know I've been there. Anyway, thanks for staying up late and checking in with us.
Oh, no problem. I'm working on maybe 2 hours sleep, so yeah, I gotta go to sleep.
Okay, yeah. Don't fall asleep. What's the ham thing? Fall asleep with the Vox on, so we can hear you snoring. Thanks. Let's go over to SWL 25.
Hello, Dallas 25 checking in.
25 checking in and checked in. You are sounding good up there in Madera Heights.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. A little tired tonight with work, laying tile in the house, and just small job, and then of course the normal stuff. Anyway, I don't know if how much longer I'll be able to hang out, but I just wanted to check in and thank you for what you do.
All right, well, you made an appearance. You are recorded on the archive, so we know you were there. I think a lot of people were out busy doing stuff today, myself included. So if you only have a time to wave a hand at the roll call, that's great. If you can grab a radio or two, if you're sticking around tonight, that's fine. And if you're actually listening, if you're listening in the horizontal position at oldtuberadio.net, let us know. You can actually post on the page. I see SWL7 on the video side. I just went over there to check to see who's listening. We'll probably go late tonight, just because I'm getting started late and jabbering on here. So if you watch the big page, there it is, SWL7 getting an official check-in. Thanks, Ed. Sorry I missed you there. Who's listening in? DD21, of course. OBP. No gate tonight, huh? On 21. There should be. Hopefully, Paul, you're seeing the video gate or the audio gate wherever you might be. Mighty Juliet Whiskey, listening in from Iowa, saying hello radio to the group. 11 Scannerman in BC, Canada, with the Hallicrafter CB17. I'll have to remember to put a picture up for the 17. We don't. A lot of CB3As and a CB1, maybe not the 17. So I wish we could get some conditions for Mr. Thor there. And we will continue on. This is the roll call. We'll have Tube Radios checking in after we get done with the roll call here. Heard SWL 25. Let's go over to SWL 27. And again, I will give the caveat that I do not have the crossband up. So if people who do have the FM crossband are listening, I will appreciate any and all references and referrals to those checking in that mode. SWL 29 with a requested proxy check-in. Mr. Loner, who back when he was working the big radio table would always give us a few check-ins during the old Tube Radio Network. Over to nobody there. SWL 31. Now my mouse isn't working. Here we go. And I do believe when I went to the big page, I did see Hendersonville, Tennessee. You must be at the control point tonight, Robert, because you are showing up with the right numbers. Not out traveling around looking for radio stuff. Well, you're always looking for radio stuff, but good to have you in there. Over to SWL 32. SWL 33, myself and the Jingle Singers and Bozo Control. Should I take time? Are they ready? No, we'll wait. We'll wait till after the roll call for Jingle Singers. They're getting things set up over there. Over to SWL 34. SWL 35 checked in as 00 because he is 00. Mr. Bill with the 2-for-1 coupon for the next 8 weeks. Over to SWL 36. SWL 37. SWL 38. Shortwave listener 39. SWL 40.
SWL 40 checking in, and please check in SWL 27 from the crossband.
All right, and Dwayne, if you're listening, I apologize, because you're faithfully, and 40 is checked in. You're always faithfully making sure that my crossband is working, and because of time limitations and everything else, I'm just not getting the amount of time I need to properly do radio stuff here to get things on the air properly. So I appreciate your diligence, as they say, in checking in from whatever mode. And thanks, Larry, for the relay in the crossband, and hope all is well in beautiful, wacky Chinatown tonight.
Yes, no music bands tonight, thank goodness.
You would think there's so much going on that they would be doing something else. Maybe it's down the road a piece. SWL 41. Don't forget, radios are coming up after the roll call, the old vintage radios. SWL 42. And you hear me calling numbers. Do you have to have a number to get in and talk and do anything on the L2 radio network? Absolutely not. No numbers required. Not even L2 radio, I guess. But if you want to get on the L2 radio list, that would help. Glad to hear anyone and everyone having a good time on their CB radio. That's what it's about, the way we used to do it when the radios were only glowing in the dark. Looking for SWL 43. SWL 44. I don't think I saw Mr. Ray in the mix quite yet, so I will keep an eye out for 44 coming up. How about SWL 45?
Very good night, Dennis. 45.
Thank you. I ran in here very quickly and did a tune-up. My ergonomically incorrect meters, which are directly behind me. I have to turn 180 degrees here away from the microphone. I see the wiggle meters seem to be okay. The audio board sounds like it's working. My audio seems to be there, so apologies if it's not quite up to snuff. We'll see. We make it work for another 2 hours. It'll be good. You're sounding good, sir, and if you're not doing anything and jump in the radio room, we will listen for some rigs tonight.
Thanks, Dennis.
That's great, because Paul has one of the bigger collections here in the Central Valley, and he's always very generous to take time out of his Saturday evening to share them with all of us. So we'll see what he comes up with tonight. Over to SWL 47, who checked in via email and said, please give me a check-in, and I said, I can do that. I'm writing in a red pen. Where's my... That's the only thing on the table here. So if you're checked in with red ink tonight, that means nothing except that that control doesn't have the right pen at the table. Do not fret. Mike is checked in. How about SWL 48? Sam sometimes checks in at oldtuberadio.net. Sometimes live and direct. I will listen out for him. Also, who else checking? Albert in Squamish, British Columbia. You've probably been listening in before. I don't know if you're new. The 256 mechanic running the realistic TRC 451 from 1976. So I would have to look. I'll have to bring that one up too. If it's a 23 channel or a 40 channel, that would have been right on the cusp, as they say. And he's just acquired three, count them, 3 Helicrafters CB3As with no mics or power cords. Can you help us in any way? I think we can. I actually have a CB3A from the collection of SWL 37 sitting over my shoulder, which you will see when we go back to the control room. And they, believe it or not, run the same microphone connector and the same configuration, audio configuration, as the Browning. The Browning Mark III and some of the other 2 pins. So when Harvey comes back on, we'll talk about what to do. Got to be careful, though. I think there's some high voltage some B+ on that Michael key up line. So got to be very careful for what you do. Thanks, Albert, for letting us know you are out there listening, and we wish we could get some conditions out your way. Sometimes we can. Hello to 233 in Mojave, where if we heard you tonight, it would be on the super short skip or maybe even the backscatter. But no doubt 233 probably holds its own when the skip conditions are running. Also, hello to David in Washington, listening in at oldtuberadio.net. And who else? We'll see. We'll get the roll call done here because we'd like to check in some radios. Looking for SWL 49. SWL 50.
50 here, and good evening, everybody. Also, could you proxy 650, please?
We'll do 650. I do have kind of a high static level tonight. Not the atmospherics like we've been getting, but just... So I've moved my RF gain back a little bit so that our SWLs listening in don't have to listen to the massive noise floor. In fact, you'll probably see on the S meter that trying to think what I'm setting at, like an S7 of noise and backed up RF. SWL 50 always sounding good. Noise level doesn't affect him one bit. And 650 is also got the check in. Thanks, sir. SWL 51.
SWL 51 checking in.
SWL 51, that is 305 out near Sangertown. And if we ever get a chance, maybe late night or whenever, to talk about audio, that is one guy we want in the conversation. Those of you, I know some of you listening in do the high fidelity audio stuff like I do and like Dave does, and there is a couple of Facebook groups, and a couple of good ones that will help you out if you're into the high fidelity audio, or whether it's direct injected or modulated. The old tube radios work well for that because a lot of them did not have the compressor or the clippers and limiters. So if you can put some good audio even into the microphonium jack, it will give you good audio out. Thanks for checking in, Dave.
Thank you, Denny. Hello.
SWL 52. SWL 53.
I guess I don't get out.
Oh, there's somebody in my way in there. Who is trying to check in?
I'm not checking in. I'm just seeing if I'm getting out.
This is the Get Out frequency, the Old Tube Radio Network here in Central California with the DirectNet roll call and also streaming at oldtuberadio.net. I can hear you, as we say on the Old Tube Radio Net, 9 pounds, good modulation at Chestnut and Herndon. All right, and the skip is rolling in. So stations listening in on the short hop E-skip. There's Arizona. So Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, possible. Maybe even Mojave, 233. Get your ears on. We're going to get through the roll call here. If you've got some tube radios, get them in. I always like the DX check-ins. Roll call, though, looking for SWL 54, and I have a note to proxy in, Larry, which I will. SWL 55. SWL 56.
Good evening, Dennis from the net. 56, just for kicks.
Looking good and sounding good. And what was it? I saw a couple of posts on the AM, the amplitude modulation Facebook page. All the ham guys, and one of them had got a Comanche and was re-putting it back on 10 meters, waiting for the band to open. But I thought about all your great collection over there, which you always make sound very good on AM. Much to everyone's disbelief, those Siltronics can sound good on AM if you drive them right. Thanks for checking in. SWL 57. SWL 58.
Break OTR.
And the break OTR, go ahead, please.
Dennis, can I get a late check-in for 55, please?
Yeah, I just have to go back in time less than a minute. Step in the OTR retro thing and go back. Let's see. Let's set it for 47 seconds when I called. Let's try this. SWL 55.
Here.
Oh, I love this machine. All right. You guys got you checked in. Over.
Thank you, Dennis.
Let me call 58 again. SWL 59. SWL 60.
Thank you much, Dennis. Tonight we're checking in a new member of the family here, a little Uniden PC 122. And doggone it, I hope it's sounding okay to you.
Uniden sounds good. It's got big audio. Big audio and a nice signal, by the way. And it is recorded now at oldtuberadio.net, so you can hear the replay back. Always like to be introduced to new members of the family. Sounding good. SWL 60 over.
Hey, Dennis, thanks a bunch.
And even 10 over S9 on the meter here, which I can almost see through all the stuff that's in my way. Over to SWL 61.
61 checking in, Dennis.
SWL, wait a minute. 61, all right. Sounding good, sir. I got my pages flipped around. But I know 61 when I hear it. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Dennis.
I think after doing this for so long, Net Control would know how to hold the papers. Who else is out there? Speaking of papers, SWL 44. That little machine that was helpful for 55, it's also helpful for 54. Go back in time, we'll call 44. Try it on the flat side, no vertical. Well, you just heard, maybe you just heard on the stream, Arizona sneaking in, so be listening. You never know. All right, we got 44 in, we've got 61 in. Let's go over to beautiful downtown Clovis, SWL 62.
Evening time, Dennis. It is 62. I heard you talking a little while ago about the old times. We did have a lot of fun when Dr. Jim was around Italy.
He was the best straight man for all sorts of shenanigans, whether they were pre-planned or not planned. And I remember staying up very late playing the harmonica and all sorts of stuff. So yes, indeedy. Back when you can have fun on the CB radio, which is what we plan to do tonight. We're going to check in some radios, talk about that kind of stuff. SWL 63. That's Bubba and our New York stations who are listening. There was somebody earlier. Let me grab the right device and see if we got anything going on. Yeah. New York is in there, of course. I tried to tune in some 3885 last night, and I was only hearing the West Coast guys. And I'm sure it's not because the East Coast guys weren't running the AM broadcast transmitter. It's throttled back at 100% modulation with, 365 watts of carrier. It was because yours truly doesn't have the proper antenna to decipher the good stuff. Thank you, 63, for checking in. Over to SWL 64. SWL 65. SWL 66. SWL 67. Shortwave listener 68. SWL 69. And, the Bob and Steve show. No, you did not say anything wrong. I'm not putting the Jingle Singers on mainly because I'm way, way behind in getting the radios going here. I know a lot of stations are listening from way off, like yourself, way off. Far out, I should say. Far out, yeah, you're far out. And maybe would like to hear something in the tube radio mode before it turns into Sunday. And I think I've already failed for a few of you, so we will keep going here, but good to have our crew that keeps the Jingle Singers and everything going on over in the other studio intact, so that if I blow anything up, it's usually on my side. Let's go up the hill a little bit for SWL 70. And I can hear that skip trying to roll in. SWL 71, whose voice, I believe, has made it into this station here via the internet. Did I see Stan? Yes. Saying that 10 meters has been in every day this week in Foreland. I just haven't had time to go in. I've heard the beacons coming in. The British Columbia beacons usually do really good here. The VE7 MTY, I think, and some other things. But I haven't listened on the AM window. Probably hear some good stuff between between 28,300 and 28,500. But like Stan says, if you're SWLing, listen to 10 meters, and if you've got the ticket, go in there and stir it up. Stir it up. You know, if 11's open, 10 might be open as well. If you hear those 5-watt beacons, you know you're in business. You're in business. Thanks, Stan. Stan's in Dallas, Georgia, waiting for a Guardian Pierce Simpson 23 to come along so he can stand up and cheer. Over to SWL 72.
Break 1-1.
And the break 1-1. We will go back, let's see, in the retro OTR machine, only like 11 seconds. The break 1-1, go ahead.
Is this the unofficial Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass station?
It is. I heard that earlier, before we actually got into the you can't play copyrighted music on the air mode.
Yeah, it was unofficial. 70 checking in, please.
70 is checking in. Those of us who frequented yard sales, who frequent yard sales, and those of us who are around in the day probably have that infamous Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass album that must have sold 100 million copies, called Whipped Cream, with the female type item on the front covered in what appears to be whipped cream and maybe nothing else. And if you go to a garage sale, you will no doubt, if there's some type of records in a box, vinyl as they call them now, you will find that record sitting there. Maybe multiple copies of them. All right, thanks for checking in.
Good stuff, thank you.
And I probably got one here, but I am not going to go over on the other side of the Radio Shack and go searching for it. But I'm sure I've got that album somewhere. Let's keep going. Radios are coming up. We're having fun with the shortwave listeners tonight, and that's a good thing. Over to SWL 73. SWL 74. And I got a note to check in 74, which I will do. SWL 75. Skip is trying to come in tonight, so if you are in the short skip zone here from Central California, you can hear us, of course, at all2radio.net on the stream, but you just never know what could be coming in your two-way radio device. Over to SWL 77.
77 on the Tower of Power in the Tower District. Checking in and listening up and waving a hand. 73 to all the listeners.
All right, and there's one of our DX stations. If you're going to hear anybody tonight, it will be the Tower of Power. It's 25 over here in Midtown Fresno tonight. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
SWL 79. Shortwave listener 80. Page 4, we're getting there. SWL 81. And he's got it's next weekend. Big sale coming up. If Steve Reno shows up, we'll talk about that. SWL 82. Did he already check in? I remember hearing his voice. SWL 83. No, there's 83 is something else. SWL 84. SWL 85. SWL 86. Now my internet's not working. Here we go. SWL 87. There's always something. As long as the radios work tonight, I'm fine. SWL 88. Shortwave listener 89. SWL 90. from way out in Madera, SWL 92. I took a pause there because my receive is just noisy tonight. Sometimes I have to listen for the Madera stations. SWL 93. SWL 98. Sounding good, sir. Fresno Dave. Waving a hand to everybody who might be listening in tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonder if he's in the noon improved mobile radio station, SWL 103. Jeff has been working on his mobile unit. Looking forward to hear it when it can key up here on Saturday evenings. SWL 109. SWL 110. Might be a stretch for Reedley tonight. SWL 111. Don't think I heard anybody in there. SWL 114.
114, checking in.
The Cobra 2000, sounding good as always. Thanks for checking in. This is Dennis, over.
Is Unit 5454?
Let me make sure I put the 5-4 proxy as was requested, and I do see red ink. 5-4 is in.
Okay, just making sure. I fix this thing. I hate myself. Okay, see ya.
No, we all like SWL 20. Yeah, red ink is good tonight, because that's all I have is the red ink pen. The radios are coming up. Have faith. We will be glowing in the dark shortly. Wayne, Mr. Rickshaw Kid is in SWL 128, and I do believe in my travels over at oldtuberadio.net, I saw Mr. John Lee moments ago saying that he's just returned from the Fairfax Fair. There's some alliteration for all you spoken word poets out there. And a Smash Mouth concert. And then he says, what, can't hear you? And he's checking his ears. Yeah, he's got the cotton is out of his ears. Oh, man, I remember my first concert. It was a Jethro Tull concert. I think it was back in 75, and I was a babe in the woods. I did not realize the painfulness that would be happening after the concert was over. Holy cow. All right. John Lee, I hope you recover. And the Fairfax Fair, I already like the way that sounds. I'll have to write a poem about the Fairfax Fair. Thanks for checking in. Hopefully we will get some of your favorite radios in tonight. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some skip in. Next is SWL 131. SWL 133.
Hello, Dennis. 133 checking in.
Sounding good, Dave. SWL 133. And Dave is he's hearing us well tonight because instead of listening to Smash Mouth, he has probably on the 8-track playing some Mel Torme. So you can never go wrong with the Velvet Fog. All right. Thanks, Dave. Next, we have SWL 135.
SWL 135 checking in.
Okay, I did hear correctly. I was kind of in and out when I was tuning up late, and I thought I might have heard on the test stream, the ever-popular 135, and you are there, so good deal. I hear you. We'll talk about the radio probably in just moments and see what is up. Good to have you on the airwaves. Thank you, Mr. Green Arrow.
Yes, I am here. Thank you. I'll see you in a few minutes.
SWL 137. You're listening to the Old Tube Radio Network, 27085 in Central California, channel 11. Everywhere else at oldtuberadio.net on the audio stream on your Universal Media Net web. We've got some Old Tube radios coming up. You might even be watching the less than stellar S meter at oldtuberadio whatever it is, the YouTube video. Over to SWL 145.
Yeah, 145 checking in, Dennis.
145. Hello, Tony. Are you hearing Midtown Fresno okay tonight?
Oh, loud and proud. You guys, you're sounding real good tonight.
All right, that's good. That means I haven't broken anything. Got you checked in.
Yes, I tried to post a comment on the website, but I must be doing something wrong. I tried to let you know earlier I was taking my technician exam today, which I passed.
Hey, I didn't know there was exams today, so they have FCC has sort of fixed things up, and you will, if you don't already, you will know what your call might be very, very soon to get on there. So congratulations. I think a lot of us are looking forward to the solar cycle 25 coming up, and hopefully might be doing some 10-meter AM and some 2-meter stuff. So that opens up a lot of doors. So congratulations. And let's see, to check in on the other page, I think you now have to have some type of a Facebook account because all the other venues we have no longer work properly. So I'll keep an eye out for that. But good deal on the upgrade to ultimate frequencies.
Thank you.
Tony up there in Coarse Gold, who's got a very good location that beacons down pretty decent here in the Flatlands. Over to SWL 147. And I know I saw Neil. Let's see what the skip report is. Big thunderstorms rolling through this weekend. And he says, thanks to all of us for giving the skip conditions back. Apparently, and I don't know if OBP is posted over on the video site. Typically, he will give us the sunspot numbers. And I'm thinking they are definitely got to be more than 0. Something's rotated this way. And Neil says even the low frequency 26 dot something, I guess that's the AM guys, right? Down that low. Are in. Our other station reporting 10 meters has been in. So good stuff. Maybe the Cali guys will come through the door soon. We hope so. Carolina Sandhills. Looking forward to some skip conditions. Thanks, Neil. The other thing that means is when we get the good skip conditions, that the roll call, like right now, until the sun goes down, is going to be very difficult. It will be like one of those de-expedition contests trying to get checked in. Let's head over to, speaking of Coarse Gold, up to the Coarse Gold Starliner. Hello, 195. Good evening. That's Jim up there in Coarse Gold. SWL 195, and then over to SWL 226.
Break OTR.
The break OTR. Go ahead, please.
82 checking in late in the mobile in Fresno.
82 in the mobile in Fresno. Your mobile radio sounds quite nice here on my very low antenna, and hopefully people are behaving, yourself included, out there on the road tonight.
Yes, we are. We are behaving. Forward and west, heading out west. All right, take care.
All right, 5 dB over S9, putting in a good signal here tonight. Thanks for checking in. Anybody I missed that would like to check in before we head over to the tube radios?
Can I proxy 65, please, Dennis?
Yeah, let's do that, because I do believe that I don't have the Red Ink X yet. So we'll get the proxy check-in, and if Eric is live and direct, we'll update that. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, give me a moment or two. I have to reconfigure for the tube radio check-ins. What I do is I have 2 separate archive streams. So if you're at oldtuberadio.net, you will see the tube darken for just a moment as we've refreshed the stream to make 2 separate pieces out of it. Then we'll be back in a moment. We'll keep the video up, all that together, and then back. When we return, I should say, we'll be talking with the tube radios, the classic radios. Back in a moment, the old tube radio network.
Break OTR.
break, OTR.
We'll be right back in a minute.
Okay.
Were you wanting to check in?
D.
I didn't catch it.
C. Yes.
He'll be back in a minute.
Yes.
Everything looks hunky-dory. Let's see if we can get started with the Jingle Singers here on the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Greetings to you, wherever you are. For music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
the station for you is
OTR.
Hopefully the station for you is OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network. Getting started a little late tonight, but that's my fault. So if we need to continue on, let everybody checked in, we will do just that. My name is Dennis, your net control operator here in Central California, where we, for the past 34 years or so, on Saturday evenings at 8 p.m., have been sitting by our tube radio microphoniums, ready to chat like one might have done back in the 1960s or 70s or the late 1950s when all this Class D stuff started. So without further ado, I will say OTR is looking for radio number 1.
135, 135.
45? 37, just wanting to check in.
All right, 135, step up into the air chair. 45, Paul, step into the green room. You will be radio number 2. And over on the SWL side, 37, just wanting to check in. So let's get Chris checked in since I still have the SWL list. It hasn't fallen out of my lap onto the floor here. So you've got the red ink, Chris. Thanks for jumping into the Radio Shack to say hello. If you can't stick around, we will understand. But as always, the audio stream is available at oldtuberadio.net. Thanks for checking in.
You bet. Thank you, Dan. I'll try to get back a little bit.
Then I will say SWL 135, checking in, or actually writing in, Cliff, Mr. Green Arrow. I can see this red pen is going to give me trouble tonight. It's a super, I wait till I have to read the list tonight. It is a super fine point, and it's red ink under kind of darkish red lights, so this will be fun. The time, 9 o'clock. I can't ever remember starting this late, but that's okay. Hello, 135, can you hear me? Over.
I can hear you. It sounds like you're not going to be able to see anything, though. Red on red on red. Under the red light. Anyway, this is SWL 135, checking in on the Hammerland CB23. It's got 9 tubes, and all 23 channels split up 3 sectors. This is the original mic hardwired into the front of the radio. It says Hammerland on the front, but on the back it says it's a static 714. Standard plastic 1 each. You've seen them on microphones. no power or anything like that. Back to you.
Beautymus, SW135. Hello, Cliff. What are we looking at? We're looking at the Orban modulation loudness meter, which you are pushing probably maybe 50% modulation. Let me switch over. Usually when we do this, no, I don't want me. We actually have a picture of the radio. If I do this, there we go. No, let's try that. Oh, okay. You'd think I know how to do this by now. Here we go. A picture of the Hammarlund, Hammarlund, the CB23. There it is. Cool-looking radio. 23 channels, and we'll talk about the microphone. Looks like it's wired right into the front of the radio. Give us another transmission here.
Yeah, like I was saying, hardwired right into the front of the radio. No plugs or anything, so this is the only mic. And did I say this wasn't a static?
You might have. The picture we're showing says it is from your collection, so we might be getting the double whammy where not only do we hear the station, but the radio that we're viewing is the very one that's being driven around the block at the moment.
Oh yeah, if you're looking at my picture, this is that very radio. If I did screw up and say that this is an Electro Voice 714, non-amplified type plastic handheld microphone. It says Hammarlund on the front, but Electro Voice on the back.
And EV, Electro Voice, and Shure, and Turner, I think provided a lot of the microphoniums for these radios under the name, perhaps, of the radio manufacturer. This one included the Hammarlund CB23. Hammarlund made a few CB radios. They jumped into the Class D 11 meter. They were really known for their great SWL receivers in the amateur radio side of things. And so I'm not sure what response they got when they jumped into the Class D. They didn't seem to get as much flack as did some of the other manufacturers like Swan did. I was checking to see if I have a date or anything for the CB23, and I do not. I have very uninformed information, so I was going to maybe tell you that how many tube complements or anything like that. You sound good. The audio sounds fine, but I would say you're probably about 60% modulated. So if you're, and you've got a lot of carriers, so you're fine here. But if you were to somebody not full quieting, they might have a little bit of trouble hearing it. But what I'm hearing sounds good. We'll do a frequency check as well. And glad to get started off with the Hammarlund. I really like their line of radios. They did a good job of incorporating one of the radios with a shortwave receiver and then making some lesser affordable not 23 channel radios. And this was really, I'm assuming, the top of the line with all 23 channels and the S meter included.
Oh yeah, and it's got a receive fine tuning, which helps a lot, believe it or not. I guess the receive is kind of narrow, so the little tuning knob, which if you're looking at the picture, is directly located below the S meter. It does a fine job of zeroing people right in.
When you transmit, does your S meter indicate, you get any wiggle meters, as it were, showing RF or modulation or anything like that?
It's audio. It's swinging forward over here.
Okay, and it is indeed introducing audio in there. I know some radios we have, it's like, no, the meter just goes back, or it's switchable between S and RF. I have moved my position where I can get close to my receiver here, and we will, on your next transmission, Cliff provides a lot of our pictures that we use because he has a fairly large collection and is a great photographer, so this is one of them. And he's always very good at making sure that when he can, that the radio is on channel 11, that it's turned on and maybe doing something, either receiving or transmitting, especially if there's some feature that one needs to see. So while we're looking at the channel 11 Hammarlund that is transmitting on channel 11, we'll be checking the frequency. You will be able to hear me 0 beat to exactly where we're going to be. Go ahead.
Okay, there's my carrier. It's 30 over. I'm pointing to this meter, so I've got you real good. But yeah, this is not one of my most powerful radios. Maybe it is a tad off frequency. And maybe you can let me know. Back to you.
I think you're right. A tad off frequency would be a good way to put it. Not bad at all. I've got a kind of a wideband receive. I'm going to switch over. We had an audio glitch, and I'm going to put on the S. You're watching this later on. We get yourself a signal report, and it sounds like you might have got a little close to the microphone because the audio has come up. I got you at 27084.6. So what is that, about 400 cycles low, well within the FCC tolerance, and the audio sounds good on the upper and lower sideband.
Wow, yeah, I was going to say that sounds awful close for a lot of my radios. So these are all, this is crystal controlled, and, so the frequency is the frequency. There's nothing I can do to alter the transmit frequency on this.
Looks good, sounds good, and I do see a little bit of forward movement on the S meter, so the radio is doing what it's supposed to do, and we're glad you got us started off. Always like getting the interesting radios that a lot of us don't get to hear. We're all familiar with the Trams and the Brownings, and we love the Trams and the Brownings, but when you can get a Hammarlund CB23 to start things off, that's a good deal. Over to you for another transmission. Up in the number 2 slot will be Paul. Not sure what he's got. And a reminder that if you're in the local area, you pretty much know this is the Old Tube Radio Network. If the skip is running, this is from Central California, the Old Tube Radio Network, where we are live streaming at oldtuberadio.net on your Universal Media Net web device. Or if you go to YouTube and click into the Old Tube Radio Network live for June 8th, 2019, you will see the video portion as well as the audio portion. Back to you, sir.
Yeah, I wanted to try to check in something different this time. I hope you enjoy it. It's a neat little radio. I haven't seen too many of them. And thank you very much for letting me check it in, and we'll catch you next time.
Next time in the Old Tube Radio Network. Glad you are radioactive out in the room with the Hammarlund. Hi, back to the control room here, where we are going to call for Paul, SWL 45. Are you still within the sound of my voice? Over.
Right, go to yard. Yeah, well, I can hear you. Hawaii's coming in. Got pretty good skip, pretty strong. Just about wipes you out. So we'll try. Anyway, I'd like to check in my T-Craft Falcon.
All right, the T-Craft Falcon. I can hear the skip sneaking in underneath things. As anybody can see out in the back here behind me, we are past our gray line, but coming up to the gray line in the Pacific. So it would not be uncommon maybe to hear Hawaii and or the mini grass. Before we start with the radio, Paul, let me take what I think is an SWL check-in so we can get that going here. The station for break, OTR, go ahead, please.
Yeah, sorry about that, Dennis. SB53 checking in.
Yeah, not a problem, sir. I wanted to make sure you got checked in case you have to run off, but we always appreciate our shortwave listeners saying hello and waving a hand, and always Mr. Belair for sure. I'm finding the right page, and we'll put the X in the square. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
And then back over to Radio Land, where we are... Did you tell me what radio it is? I've got to find my list here. Yeah, the T-Craft Falcon. It's been a very, very long day, so the short-term memory is indeed that. Back to you, Paul, for a transmission on the T-Craft Falcon. I will see if I can procure a picture of a likeness of that radio. Over.
Yeah, okay. Well, this thing was manufactured in 1959. It sold for $144.95. It's complete. It doesn't have any outside lights, any way to tell if you turn them on or anything. And believe it or not, they got a stop toggle switch up on the right-hand corner up there. It's very crude, but very functional. Good receive on the thing. I don't know how much transmit is, but the receiver is really good for such an old radio. Anyway, I got more to tell you. You can probably fill in some stuff there, too. Back to you, Dennis.
Certainly. Found a photo of the T-Craft Falcon. You have super loud audio tonight on that radio. Good signal as well. And this says it is from your collection. So this might, just two in a row here, another radio that we are listening to, that we might actually be seeing the radio that's being driven here tonight. Kind of has a style of one of those broadcast table radios with the tuning selector. Let me see if I got any other information. Like you said, 23 channel VFO on the receive, 5 channels crystal controlled. Of course, that was the rule of the FCC when they started the Class D in late 1958-59 was you must be crystal controlled on the transmit, channelized, and they really didn't want this to be like amateur radio. It was sort of a totally different thing, not hobby communications, and easy to use with the channelized thing. So over to you for another transmission. We'll talk more about the T-Craft Falcon, but if you listen to the archives, I think you'll be pleased with the audio. Over.
Okay, well, this microphone is stock mic. It's a Turner mic, ceramic microphone. Came with it. It's not amplified. And the cord on the thing is rather short because this mic you can put inside the radio and completely hide it. It's pretty neat. I've never seen one like it before. But there's not much information on this thing. You won't find anything in SAMs or anything on that about... but what you get is what I've picked up, and that's where I told you about everything I know on the thing. It's a real neat radio. Back to you.
Looks neat. I think I heard 20 in there, so if that was you, Harvey, we will grab you after this radio. You might even be Radio 3, or if you have a comment about this radio, we'll also pick that up. T-Craft Falcon, 11 tubes, which is actually quite a few. The early radios, like some of the Hallicrafters, only had 7 tubes. They didn't have sideband and product detectors. They didn't need a lot of tubes, but this one has 11. Maybe if it's earlier, it's got some rectifiers in there. I don't have a rundown on the list, and mentioned the microphone compartment, which is kind of cool. Would work for a desk or a mobile. I don't show that it can run 12 volts or not. I'm thinking it might, because back when things started, that's in theory how you were running the CB radios. You had a station call, a base, and then you had units, base to unit 1, unit 2, mobile 1. That's how a lot of things were supposed to be happening. 5 crystal-controlled channels, as you mentioned, and it says the T-Craft Falcon differs from the T-Craft Falcon radiophone found in the magazine ad. So maybe they made some changes, or the company just didn't quite fly that well, because you said it didn't really make it into Sam's photo fax. Over to you for transmission, and if you're still copying me through the skip, I'm wondering where we're just looking straight onto the radio in the picture here. Where is the microphone compartment? Is it off to the side or on the top? Where? Because I don't. Obviously, it doesn't. It's not in the front. So where do you put that microphone when you can store it?
Up right. VFO control is on the left-hand side. Got a sliding compartment back here. Slide door, I would tell the thing. It actually slides down big enough to get your microphone in there. And then it closes where you can't see the mic at all. I'd like to put a small microphone cord. They make the real small ones right now. If they're real popular, get one for about $8. Then I could get a little more extension, because this right here, I got to get up real close with this short cord. I don't want to stretch it out too bad. That's about it, Dennis. Thanks for checking it in.
Very good. And the other question I have, if I'm making it through the noise, I see that we can see the microphone, or is it right on the side of the radio? Looks like it's connected. Where is, if you told me I wasn't listening, where is the microphone plugged in? I don't see a plug in the front. Is it hard? Well, usually the early radios, they were hardwired in. Is it in that little compartment? It goes into the compartment somewhere?
That's exactly correct. It's hardwired right in that little compartment. And then your wire to the microphone hooks you, of course, to your thing. You kind of slide the mic cord in first and then put the microphone in. I had to kind of grind off a little part of the holding the mic on the back to get it to fit this time, but it's working. That's all that matters. Back to you.
Yeah, if we can hear it, it gets checked in and broadcast to worldwide at oldtuberadio.net. I wonder if they secretly have the tubes away from that microphone compartment, so when you had your microphone in there and the radio was on listening, you reached in there to grab it. You wouldn't get the hot hand. Radio number 2 from Paul, the T-Craft Falcon, very early CB radio, 1959, 1960 probably, and it's a giveaway. It's one of the radios that doesn't have the big S meters, and it doesn't have all 23 channels, but it had the tunable 23, so you could figure out which channel you wanted to get, and then you bought the crystal for it. Probably came out of the box with channel 11, which is one of the reasons we chose this particular frequency. Thanks, Paul, for radio number 2. I want to pick up some breaking stations here. I know I have 64, so hang on one before I get you checked in, because I thought I heard Harvey. Maybe it was you. 20, were you out there listening? Over? Okay, yeah, because you're very weak, so it'll be going to be hard for me to hear you, but we'll talk about that. Let's go over to the SWL list, and I believe SWL 64 is out there. Over.
Yeah, that's me.
All right, SWL 64, 1IG will get you to the Old Tube Radio Network, get you on the list for SWL 64. Thanks for being out there. Over. And then, with the skip and things, we will give a try over to Harvey, SWL 20. And if you are able, if your switch is working, you mentioned the coax switch doing some interesting things, so hopefully you have a radio on the switch and it's not bypassed on no antenna. If you're transmitting on the dummy load, you're actually doing pretty well. Hello, Harvey. All right, I was dialing, as the SWLs can see, I was dialing the frequency around to see if I could pick you up any better. Sounds like you might be high in frequency. The audio is really almost compressed. I'm going to say it almost sounds like it's flat topping. You're basically in my noise, so there isn't much signal, but the audio I have has that flat topping sound. So as you try to, as it gets louder, it also gets I'll call it distortion. That might be a good thing. So it's going to be extremely hard for me to hear what you're saying. You said something about frequency. That's all I could get out of that. Yeah, it just sounds like it's flat topping. It's the louder, the more modulation you try to put into it, the less intelligible it is. All right, I can tell you're there, but it's going to be pretty rough. So if you get to a point where you're on another radio, we'll talk about what we just heard. Or if that radio gets the proper adjustment, such that there is one, we will talk about that radio with that radio. The Old Tube Radio Network here, looking for radio number 2. Let me jump over to the Jingle Singers. And we'll be right back after this word from Studio B.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite slot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
And we'll be right back here on the Old Tube Radio Network. All right, my apologies. I had to jump out of the air chair, but I am back now. So if anybody said anything, I didn't hear you. And I'm hearing something. It might be Skipland. This is the Old Tube Radio Network. Let me jump over to the page with our video listeners. Captain Keyboard is in from Nevada. We are getting some short skips, sir. And if you have the ability to listen in on Channel 11, you might do so. Heard Arizona. Las Vegas, I think, is going to be a little bit close for the skip, but you just never know. So give us a shout. In the meantime, if you're in the RF zone and you've got a tube radio, we'd like to hear from you. OTR listening.
I don't know. I think somebody was keying on you. That's why I couldn't hear.
Well, I hear somebody way out, but they're in my noise level. I hear you now, Harvey. Over.
Okay, I turned off the little helper. Okay, it's keying up now. I have a little bit more work to do on this. Anyway, the general radio telephone VS12. VS12. I had to figure out the wiring for the AC cord. Got that figured out. Replaced a couple tubes and did a little tune-up, but I haven't got it quite all done yet. But it's working.
Yeah, it sounds good. So that's the same radio from before. The audio is okay, so I might have misspoke. Maybe it was just in the noise so far that I couldn't discern the audio on the VS12. I've brought a picture up. Let me see if it's going to fly here on the VS12. It's kind of a dark shot. Very fancy. I'm so used to the VS4s and the VS2s. This is actually a pretty fancy front end for that 12. Over. And there's a lot of channels on it. And you may or may not be hearing me anymore. But we did get your transmission on the VS12. This is from Paul's collection, SWL45. And my guess is this is the last VS vibration service radio that General Telephone produced. They might have made an A model. I'll have to check on that. But they changed the front end to the sort of the brushed brass, like the Master Control series. It's got a lot more channels. It's got lights and some switches. So this was a very deluxe mobile radio for general radio telephone. Let me see if I got any more information. No, I don't have the tube complement or not. Are you still with us, Harvey? Over. All right, if you're there, I'm not hearing you if you're actually hearing me, so we'll stand by. I do have you logged in at 9:20 as Radio 3 on the general radio telephone VS12, which I do believe you said needs a little more work, and maybe you have just confirmed that by not being able to key the radio. Speaking of keying the radios, this is the Old Tube Radio Network, real radios glowing in the dark for the past 34 years on Saturday evenings at 8 p.m. here in Central California, listening for the golden classic vacuum tube radios from about 1958 to 1978 of the Class D Citizen Radio Service. We're looking for radio number 4.
45.
And hello, Paul, over.
Yeah, the comment on that Radio Harveys, I know all about them because we've been talking back and forth, and I'm getting to get my VS12 back down to him so we get the receiver on the thing. But anyway, that tube complimented his was they went back to the VS6, VS4, that same model. They just added more crystals to it, put it in there. Mine, they had so much trouble with the thing because it had that EC-LL800 tube in it, and it was just too much for the machine. Couldn't handle it, so they scrapped it, and then they went to the one like Harvey's got, the newer kind. I don't mean to step on Harvey's foot, but that's what it is.
No, good information, because when I called things up, I didn't have a tube complement or anything on it all, other than it's the VS12. They did fancy up the front. Instead of making it the black like the early models, it's got the nice general scripted logo and the brushed, and I'll call it brass or copper, but that's not correct, and the lights. So it looks like a very nice fancy unit. And what he was doing when he came back the last time, I was hearing him and the audio quite nice. So I'm sure if it gets, as we say in the business, peaked and tweaked, it will make a good showing here at the Old Tube Radio Network.
Yeah, anyway, when you get a chance, I'd like to check in another radio.
Yeah, Radio 4 would be a good thing here at 9:30 Pacific Coast Daylight Savings Time. Let's see what you got, over.
Okay, this is my Lafayette Comstat 35, the Red Nose radio.
Great we'll remember that one for the end of December. Go back to the Orban loudness meter while I see if I have some information on the Lafayette Comstat 35. I think I do have a picture, because you mentioned the red nose, and that is, I want to say it's a channel selector on the unit. I'm not sure if they're all like that, but obviously yours is. Give us another transmission while I search for the infamous Lafayette Comstat 35, over.
Yeah, well, this is kind of it's not a fake red nose, but I didn't have a red nose on this radio, never did have one. So I was lucky enough to pick up another radio with a real nice red nose on it. It doesn't work, but I think it's possible it can be fixed. But I got the nose, and the nose is really immaculate. It's really beautiful. It's not as red as the factory, well, maybe it is factory, but it looks real deep red. I think we're going crazy, Dennis, back here.
It's there. I've got a picture of that particular radio, and I was saying if I had any information what was different from the Comstat 25, which was, I want to say it was a Panasonic out of Japan, and this one says it was made in Korea by Panasonic. So were the other ones Korean? I'm not sure. 11 tube complement. Still 23 channels, so obviously pre-1976. And they're all 6-volt tubes, except it's got a pair of 12A. It's got a 12AX7 and a 12AT7. The signal is good, and the audio is very nice as well. So I'm wondering what you're doing for the audio. Over.
Okay, well, that's something I started off on this thing. It's got a range boost on it. I just turned the range boost off. That probably made quite a difference. It looks like, well, not a whole lot, but it makes some difference. How does it sound?
All right, let's do a comparison. I'm going to bring up the Orban loudness meter. So keep the, I think you said you're in the range boost off. Keep the range boost off. Take a 5 or 10 second transmission. Mary Had a Little Lamb or something, and then turn the range boost on, and we'll do it again and see if the loudness meter can detect any difference here.
Okay, I run a D104 hand mic on the thing, and amplified. I have it cut way down, and hopefully that I'm not messing up the range boost. It doesn't look like I am according to the meters and everything. It swings about a little bit less all this way than it is with the range boost on. I'll kick the range boost back on. Yeah. It helps a lot. It raises up the modulation and everything. Okay, well, I'm happy with it. Back to you.
Yeah, without the range boost, you were, what's the settings? LKFS like minus 20, 21, maybe peaked at 19, and when you put the range boost on, it held it at minus 19. I think if you talked more, you went up to minus 18. Just kind of relative numbers, but it does show that it increases the density, the loudness, if you will, when you have the range boost put in. And it sounds good. Just if you're listening through the headphoniums like I am, you can tell a difference. And my guess, it would help for noisy band conditions, or if your radio was in the noise. Radio number 4 on the Old Tube Radio Network tonight. And let me ditch the Orban meter so we can go back to what it is that Paul has, and that is this radio, the Lafayette Comstat 35. I'm thinking that might be the last tube radio that Lafayette put out. Sounding good, over.
Yeah, I think in the 70s they stopped. I don't know exactly when it was. And I don't know, I can't tell. You probably got better information than that. It says 1975. That's what they say it was manufactured in Korea for Panasonic. So it's a very relatively new radio. And I tell you what, they're strong radios. They did a real nice job on the thing. The Koreans did. It's a strong radio and working well. And I think most of them are that way. Back to you, Dennis, and thanks for checking it in.
Thanks for bringing it by. That is why we are here every Saturday, to give our radio collectors a chance to, like an old car show, drive the radio around the block, and we can take a look at the fins and chrome, open up the hood a little bit, and take a transmission. So glad you could do that. I want to say hello to our new viewers, if you're over at the YouTube site, and Brian, of course, the mighty KUH, who is no stranger to tube radio type stuff and DXing and AM and all those good things. Also, Butterbean in Northeast Georgia, checking in on his old tube computer. Well, maybe not tubes, and maybe not so old. And in the computer world, 2014, I think, is old. But it's working. I'm trying to think. This one I'm working on here in front of me is probably same vintage, like 2013 or 2014, and it still seems to work okay. I probably shouldn't have said anything about that. So if I go away, you know that the computer has stopped. Let's talk about things working, whether they're old or new. And that would be the Jingle Singers over in Studio B, telling us about that friendly place to be on Saturday evening.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? Greetings to you, wherever you are. The friendliest station for you by far is known to all as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
The station for you is
OTR.
Hopefully the station is you. I'm not dressed as fancily as I normally am with a collar tonight, but what it does is it shows off my effect lighting, because I'm wearing this kind of bright white long sleeve device here. So let me see what happens. I turn this off. See, a lot of people don't notice There it is. There's without the psychoacoustic. We got psychoacoustics on the audio, and this is the fancy lighting for only those on the video. So let me turn it back on. Oops. Maybe I just broke it. It's like turning on a range boost on your Lafayette. You shouldn't turn it off more than once. There we go. And there's the fancy lighting. So normally you can't even tell, but I'm dressed in the white shirt here tonight, and it shows off. Speaking about showing off, it is time to show off your radio, the Old Tube Radio Network, listening for radio number 5. I have a feeling that the skip is in. Might be some stations out there chasing some DX on lower 38. I'm almost tempted to dial up to see if there are any 10-meter beacons going on, but I don't want to take any time away from the radios tonight since we started late. So we are looking for radio number 5. And if I didn't say so, checking in X4000, who is right down here, right in the footlights, right in the front row, close enough to help me out. I think I'm gonna give the list over to X4000 tonight. He can. That's sort of the way we used to in the old days when we had multiple net controllers going on. It's like, okay, who's gonna get to talk and who's gonna get to write down all the stuff. So we can do it that way. So who else is out? Reno. Hello, Reno, Nevada. I think that is... Now that's Las Vegas. Listening in. Heard Arizona. Get a confirmation in Arizona tonight. British Columbia is still listening in. If Harvey comes back, we'll ask him about the Helicopter CB3A. But again, actually, you know what? I've got one right behind me, but I don't have the mic for it. It's right behind all my stuff. You can't really, it's being blocked here. But it takes that probably not so easy to find 2-pin mic cord or mic plug that's the same. It takes the same as the one for the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III and probably the Mark II. And it's a little tricky because it's only 3 wires and you got to make sure that you get the keying circuit in there on the shield. But it has voltage. I know the Browning has like, 65 or 85 volts running across the thing. So do not use clip leads because you will see sparks and bad things. OTR standing by. Awfully quiet. I thought we'd get a little burst like Paul was hearing as the gray line went through the mini grass, but it seems to be pretty quiet. OTR standing by. Okay, and I do have a picture. Let me show it here. The Helicopter CB-17. Is that it? That's it. And it's like all their little phone series where you can see this one that we're showing doesn't have the two options. It has the oblong cutouts there for an S meter and usually the receive VFO. That's from SWL3's collection. Let me see what it says about that. 1965. 12-volt DC, 115-volt AC, 7 tubes. See, helicopters could do these things with only 7 tubes, where a lot of the radios we're checking in tonight have 10 and 11. Sideband will even go up to 13. A lot of 12-volt tubes, 6BL6, 6CX8. But that's a good radio. If it's the same audio like in the helicopter CB3A, you can really make those things sound quite nice with the supplied microphone or even running through an audio board like I've tried. But there's the CB17 that we were talking about earlier in the evening. And we are looking for your radio, whether it's helicopters or not, here on the Old Tube Radio Network. And that was Private Thor, who was watching over on the video. Not sure if the scanner is going to pick us up tonight. Did I have another? I don't think I've had multiple pictures of that. Oh, here. Okay, we have a reverse shot of the CB17 showing. Looks like there's some adjuster control. There's the plug that you could switch in for AC or DC. And then probably the part 15, or is it 95? What's the old one? Probably the part 15. You know, don't do this, don't do that item. It's old. It's part 95. So that's the old part 95 for the Class D citizen service. I want to get a picture. It's not a tube radio, but it's the TRC 453, and that answers the question from 1976. It is the 40-channel radio. That's SWL 40's got that. the meantime, let me remind you that you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network. Out of Central California, channel 11, streaming at oldtuberadio.net, looking for radio number 5.
45.
And Paul, you are still hanging out with us. I'm assuming the skip has died down a little bit from Hawaii, so you might be hearing me better. Go ahead, sir.
We've been through a lot worse than that, I'll tell you what. It was mild, and the ground was pretty nice. So anyway, it's going to happen. So I'd like to check in my T-Craft Falcon Mark 5, that's Roman numeral 5, radio phone.
There's more in the Falcon series. Earlier you checked in the T-Craft Falcon. I believe you said a T-Craft Falcon Mark 5 radio phone. Let me see if I can display that. Not sure whose collection this is from. This is interesting. I almost recognize the style on this radio with the dual controls like that, almost like an Olsen spotter or something. We'll talk about that and see if we've got the right picture here for the T-Craft Falcon. Back to you.
Yeah, it is like the spotter. Somewhat, I don't know what they've incorporated, but it's probably, I think it's probably different depending on these companies, but you never know how they work out. Anyway, mine is a Model E. That one picture up there is a Model E. My Model E has twin noise squelch, which is called TNS. And I'll tell you what, that's a noise suppressor, and it does work. I'll give these guys super credit for that. They're quality radio. These are quality radio. Yeah, both of that dials up there, you can control the channels, by crystals and everything on mine. Anyway, I'll let you maybe back to you and you can tell some more about it, perhaps.
I was just looking. I think the spotters used to have the dual meters on there, sort of like Regency, where you'd be able to do the plate current. But this has those two little windows, so I don't know. I don't want to misspeak here. It sure has some nice loud audio. I was looking to see if it looks like it's suppressed carrier AM. It's hard to tell. It's got a pretty solid carrier when it's unmodulated. The Falcon Mark 5 radio phone, $169.95. I do have an original price, and like you said, there be 1 or 5 crystal-controlled channels. Squelch, RF gain, volume. That's interesting. That looks like it's more than 5 crystal-controlled channels, and 1 or 5 crystal-controlled channels on the transmit or receive. All right, but it appears to be tunable as well. This Mark 5 is puzzling me here.
This thing does about everything, I'll tell you. Completely different. You can tune and talk on one and receive on the other at the same time on this radio. They had everything going right for them. Back to you.
Yeah, I'm going to switch to see if I have a picture, because we have a T-Craft Falcon Mark 4. Okay, similar. Got a little more markings on the front. So I'm going to go back to the Mark 5. And there you go. It sounds good. Let me switch over to the S meter. I want you to take a transmission so that if you're watching this later on, you'll be able to see what your signal report is. Also, I think, since we're talking about the controlled here, I'll also do a frequency check on you. So back to you, transmission and frequency check, over.
Yeah, okay, well, these are a fairly new word. Just talks on a microphone, ceramic and everything like that, standard. But, there's a difference between the radios, and there's quite a number of different radios that they made about this time on T-Craft. So get a chance to look at the information. I've got quite a bit here in front of me, and it goes on and on about what they've done with these things. And we can kick these up to ham 10 meter easily and get a lot more out of them, but they're got them all knocked down, which I'm leaving in stock. So
Okay, it's 0489.95. That's for all the crystals. Back to you.
Looking really good. It's right on frequency. I mean, probably less than 100 cycles, 60 cycles. It's right on. And the audio is really loud. It's just loud audio. If you were to tell me it was a general radio telephone, I would not question that at all. That's the kind of audio that's coming out of that. I'm looking at the photo. I don't see that it has a front jack microphone, so obviously it's plugged in somewhere else. But whatever combination you've got right there, it's very good.
Right. Well, there's no difference on the front as far as difference on other than the knobs and such, unless you change knobs. They did that. And of course they run all crystals on this one, where the other one had VFOs on it. So that was the difference there. This is not stable, as long as the crystal's stable, of course, which is, we don't want to talk about that. Anyway, though, I think it's got the same toggle switch. You flip that big old toggle switch down there, and you see a picture of it. That's why he went with that, and I'll tell you what, that's a solid switch. That's why they're staying with it. Best idea. They were a sharp manufacturer, and I don't know how long they made these. This I'm seeing. I'm looking all the time. Anyway, back to you.
Sounding good. Went quickly to the order band loudness meter, and you're bringing it up to minus 16. So it sounds loud. It sounds and looks good. Not a lot of these around. Not a lot of information either, but it could be that suppressed kind of double sideband suppressed carrier has that sound to it. The radio we're talking about is the T-Craft Falcon Mark V. A little, as Paul said, a little bit different than the one we're showing. And refresh my memory, you have an A or a D model on that, over?
This is the Model D. That's for the TNS, that twin noise squelch. And you know, I wonder if that doesn't have nothing to do maybe with, what I'm thinking about. Mark 12 radio might have something to do with that one, too. As far as, the turn and everything like that. That's interesting. It would surely work the same way. Harvey might know about that twin noise squelch. Anyway, that's about it. Back to you.
Well, this one's showing, do you have, before you go, do you also have an RF gain control? This one shows RF gain and squelch. I wonder if they changed the name, and that's actually the RF gain control. So my question would be, on your squelch, and it may not be written out legible, does it say anything about an RF gain on the other knob?
You're right. That's exactly what they need to do what they did on the thing. And I just wondered for one generator telephone, MC12, that had that on there, that they put out the last radio, they put that on there too. And that was neat. I liked it. And this one here's good too. So, you don't know. Thanks a million for checking in, Dennis. We'll be listening.
Indeed. I don't think that was a contraband control to have. It's a very useful control to have. Anybody who's an SWL knows about using your RF gain control to reduce your noise level, especially on the 75 and 80 meters, we're going to have noise all the time to reduce the fatigue level, and very few 11-meter receivers or transceivers incorporated what I'll call a variable RF gain. Some of them had switchable, like a range boost types of things for receive, which probably in reality was an RF gain control. But to have an actual variable RF gain control, big plus for a receiver, and I can see why they would call it like a dual squelch. A squelch is a little bit different. It's sort of a threshold thing where the RF gain is actually helping. It can help your receive, especially for strong signals or reducing the noise. And that's what I run here on this. I run some RF gain so that you don't, our listeners don't hear a constant shh coming through their speaker all the time and drive you nuts for 2 hours. If I don't drive you nuts for 2 hours, probably the noise level would. Radio number 8 and radio number 5 tonight is the T-Craft Falcon Mark V Model A. Thanks for bringing it by. And before we go, the Jingle Singers would like to get in at least a few more, we'll call them advertisements. I'd like to call them promotional announcements for your old tube radio pleasure.
You're listening in the latest style at
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
Wonderful Fresno, California. It has been wonderful, believe it or not, but it's going to be pretty much unwonderful because I think we're going to get the temperatures going up well past 100 here next week, and that's what that's one of the many things that makes it unwonderful or wonderful here. I want to say hello to our station, still beaconing in where it might be early Sunday morning for you, but hello to Wisconsin, our Washington stations. I really thought we were going to have some conditions when Arizona came in right at the beginning of the net, but not hearing anything at this point. Hello to Pennsylvania. We've got Alberta, Nevada, Virginia, Maryland, another Washington station, another Nevada station. South Carolina still in with us tonight. Kakalaki hanging in there. Hello to Maryland, Dallas, Georgia, British Columbia station, and X4000, who might be beaconing up to the space station to try and get some skip conditions where there are not any. Anybody want to be Radio 6 before we sign out of here tonight on the Old Tube Radio Network?
20.
How about a late check-in?
Yeah, 20. Step into the air chair with your radio, and while you're doing that, we'll get the over-the-air official late check-in for SWL 7. I believe I saw you on the video page, and I'm running. Well, I showed up the pen last week. Here's the red ink pen that's going tonight, and I've got you checked in, but we'll make it official since we're now hearing you worldwide.
All right, thank you very much.
And Smarty Jones waving a hand on an early Sunday morning out there in New York. Let's find out from SWL 20. Hello, Harvey. Can you hear this peanut whistle in Midtown Fresno?
Oh, yeah. Not a problem. Okay, this is my tram, TR27C Charlie. The one with the external crystal position for receive on the front of the radio.
You know how long it has been since we checked in a tram of any kind? Long time. So this is a good item. I don't know. I don't think I have a picture. Yeah, see, I don't have a picture of a 27C. I have to go. Let me try something. I have to do some search here. But you've got. Here we go. You've got some good audio, so I know you're not fooling me. I know it's definitely a tram.
Oh, yeah. Good old tram here. Nice, well-built radio. Nice looking. The 27 with the external crystal socket on the front, and I have one with it on the side. Slightly different graphics on the front where it says 23 tram CB two-way radio. The other one says something slightly different, but basically they both do the same thing.
And they do it well. I believe the photo that I brought up is the one that has it not. It's a less than stellar photo, that's for sure, but it does not have the crystal socket in the front. I see the 23, but the picture's not good enough. Is there? Where is the C designation? How can you tell if that's the C model? Is it actually printed on there somewhere, or do you just know?
It's printed right below where it says 23 tram CB two-way radio. Then there's a tram type logo, and then right below to the right it says TR-27C. The other radio says something similar. I think it says, instead of CB, it says Citizens Band or something like that. I've got it somewhere over here. Where do I have it? I have it where I can't get to it.
All right, well, don't do anything physically bad trying to reach something. Looking at the radio, again, I apologize for the picture here, but Harvey will help us out because he's driving the thing. He can tell us what's going on. 23 obviously should be 23 channels, and it looks like it has a tunable, variable VFO receive up there at the top next to the S meter. So I'm thinking, where is the crystal control channel selector? I don't see what appears to look like a channel selector window anywhere.
Well, on the 27C, you don't have a window. Right next to, the spot button and the tunable knob, in between, below it, just to the left of where the mic plugs in, there's a channel selector, and then where it goes into the radio, it's recessed. There's a recessed part, a band, around the inner part where the 23 channels are, and printed on there it says channels, and then a line below where it lines up with the number. So there's no window.
So it's printed, I wasn't listening very well here. It's printed around the knob, or it's up on the VFO channel selector? This seems like a very strange way of doing things. There's no, like you said, there's no window. So you're saying it's actually written on the rotating knob?
Correct. There's a metal band that they stuck on a recessed part of the knob. The inner part, as it goes toward the radio, is recessed the last little 1/8 inch. And then the channels are printed on it. You just rotate the knob to where you want it.
Okay, I got it. That actually does make sense. Maybe it's less moving parts. And anybody that has, and I have some of the very old style television sets that may or may not have the UHF control, because the UHF wasn't, you had the VHF channels 2 through 13, and they had a knob that you would grab, and there wasn't a channel selector. The numbers were physically on the knob, and like you said, you had a dial pointer, and you go click, 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 and you'd look on the knob, and your channel numbers would be positioned above the pointer. So, okay, I get that. I'm just so used to seeing the let's display the rotary dial thing in the window that forgot that was actually a very common way to do channelized items, especially on televisions.
Oh, yeah. I like this radio. The other one is the same thing. They're basically identical except for those little graphic details, and that the external crystal socket is actually on the lower right side, about 1 inch or so in from the front of the radio. There's a hole cut in the cabinet, and the socket's recessed inside, and you put the crystal, and that's where your external crystal socket is. And the one you're looking at is the oddball. This is the one that you most likely will find.
If there's an oddball, that's the one we'll most likely find in the Radio Shack of Harvey, SWL20. Put on the S meter, so if you're watching the playback, you can give yourself a signal report. Also went to the Orban loudness meter for an S8 signal, which is not super full quieting, but it's above the noise level. You were at -18 on the loudness meter. So that leads me to believe that radio is very, very close to being 100% modulated. And it sounds good. The trams, of course, not unnoted for their great audio. And as you said, one of your favorite trams, the TRC-23, what did I write down? 23C as in Charlie, over.
Roger, the TR-27C One of two that I have. And they both are in pretty darn good shape. Okay, I'm going to let you go. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Got one more to do.
I can do that. I'm going to do some counting amount. It's been a long day today, so if I start saying things that don't make sense, that's probably why. But I did write down Tram TR27. C as in Charlie. While you are switching radios, and you've probably already got them switched, let's see how the fidelity is for the Jingle Singers here at 6 minutes after 10 p.m. on the Pacific Coast on your old tube radio network.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
Oh, yeah. The Browning Golden Beagle R68T68 by Browning Laboratories with the custom D104 with the medallion on the back of the head of the D104. This one I like. This one's basically always ready to go. Okay, proxy me in for next week. I'll be working. So myself and 29. And we'll catch in 2 weeks.
And hopefully I will be here in 2 weeks, the old Tube Radio Network. What did we used to say long ago? The Saturday night place to be, where it's one of the many Saturday night places to be, but a fun one if you can manage to in your old Tube Radio room, or maybe as an SWL in your listening room, checking out these classic radios from 1958 to 1978 when they were new out of the box. A lot of them sound that way even now in the 21st century in 2019. Counting and amounting, still room for Radio 7 or more. And then we'll sign out here with the list, read the list in just a moment. You're listening to the Old Tube Radio Network. The break OTR, go ahead, over. All right, who is that again? Over. 4-3. All right, and I was just counting and passed the page. So let me get you officially in there, Eddie. And did you say you fired up the old Tube Radio tonight? Over. All right, what are you on? You got a big static crash. I want to say you're on the Browning, but I'm not hearing the ping. Oh, all right. Well, that explains. I mean, it's not easy, but you can make the Browning not ping if you adjust the control. So there are some Courier fans out there. Which model of Courier are you on? I think it's the 23. All right, I think I've got a shot of the 23, and while we're here, let me pop that in. It's doing good. It's got some nice, clear audio. Like I said, because of our distance, do get full quieting, but this radio is helping out on the audio department tonight. There it is, the Courier 2-3. Take another transmission, because right now the channel is working well for us. Good night for that. It's been a little slow. A lot of people out doing things as the weather gets nicer here in the Central Valley. But Radio 7 sounding good and putting Courier on the list tonight. So thanks for staying up late with us here on the Old Tube Radio Network. All right, so far so good. Enjoy checking in the old radios, and always when we get a chance to hear some of the stations are a little bit farther away from Midtown Fresno here, like Mr. Crazy Eddie, SWL43, who is no stranger to the tube radio operation, sharing with us the courier tonight. OTR counting and amounting, and still room for Radio 8 because we haven't signed out yet.
Out there yet?
And the last call for tube radio check-ins on the old network.
65 checking in. Thought I missed you.
No, still here. I had my head buried in the list here, counting and amounting, and I think you had, somebody proxy had given you a proxy check-in, so I can use my nifty little red pen here and get you the Red X, official Red X in the square for page 3. Sounding good.
Thank you. Was Eminem, did he check in?
Yes, indeed he did.
Roger that. Thank you.
I think so. It's one of those really nice days where if you're out doing things like I was myself, when you get back into the abode, sometimes the Radio Shack is a little bit far down the hall, or maybe it's a little bit too much to put up the mobile antenna. Well, we did okay. So far, 7 radios, and I'm counting and amounting the SWLs, and I'm about ready to sign it out here. So if there is some skip, those with the stations that can manage it can get some contacts. Also want to say a good evening to our stations listening on the video side. Captain Keyboard reminding us all to be safe. And that's always a good thing to remember wherever you might be. OTR back in a moment here.
Good night, Dennis.
All right, 73. Let's go ahead and go over to the other studio where hopefully the
This is
totals
the
will
O2
come
Radio
through.
Network. Ladies and gentlemen, stand by. It's time now for the current OTR totals.
The current and final OTR totals. You know, with this bright white shirt and the strange effect lighting, I can never get the white balance. Let's try that. Yeah, always looks a little bit greenish. Maybe it's the red ink tonight. The Old Tube Radio Network thanking you for listening and participating. Taking time out of your Saturday evening to maybe sometimes sneak into the radio room to take a transmission. Not a bad thing. 11 check-ins on page 1, 13 on page 2, 13 on page 3, and 9 on page 4, for a total of 46 by my count. Radio Tonight 7 with a, is that true? A 7-way tie? Yeah. I thought we had another Browning, but it appears not. Let me go through the list. Sometimes that happens. We get a good mix of radios, and we don't hear any double manufacturers, and that's okay. We can do 100 like that. That would be great. If we checked in every one from every manufacturer, we would be going into, I don't know how we would do that. I don't want to think about that. Radio number 1, the Hammarlund CB23. Hammarlund, of course, noted for their HQ series receivers. Maybe some of you SWLs. I have a catalog or a. Can I pull it off the wall? Can I do that? Do I want to do that? No, I better not. I've got a nice catalog with a Hammarlund receiver over here, but if I pull it off, bad things will happen. So thanks, Mr. Green Arrow, for the CB23. Radio number 2, the T-Craft Falcon. I take that back. The T-Crafts tonight were the most heard manufacturer. Paul saying, finally, he's counting the right way. So the T-Craft manufacturer was the most heard tonight. Where else is that going to happen but on the old Tube Radio Network? Thanks, Paul. You did a good job that one. I almost didn't give you credit for putting them on the radio list tonight. Starting off with Radio 2, the T-Craft Falcon, and we'll talk about the other one coming up. Radio number 3 was Harvey on the General Radio Telephone VS-12. Radio 4 was the Lafayette Comstat 35 from Paul. Radio 5, and this is our second T-Craft, the Falcon Mark V Model D. I'll have to check. Sorry, I couldn't find the exact Model D picture. I bet there's one out there somewhere. I just don't have it in the old Tube Radio Network archive. Our most heard manufacturer tonight, T-Craft. Radio number 6, the Tram TR-27C, followed by the Courier 23 from Crazy Eddie. Harvey on the Tram, and then Harvey for Radio 8 tonight, the Browning R68 T68, the original Golden Eagle. I want to say thanks to all those who listened in tonight and helped us put some radios on the list. We'll try this again next week. Thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Frodex for keeping the Nixie tubes running. The bands are starting to open up as we sneak into cycle 25. A lot of you taking the time and putting forth the effort to get your either upgraded amateur radio license or maybe jump in for the first time, like Tony, and I myself am a radio amateur, and I encourage you to do that because the bands are going to get better. This is a great time to get into ham radio, where you're going to have all sorts of frequencies available to you, and you will appreciate it when the skip is really roaring in on 11 meters and you basically can't make a contact. You'll be able to maybe sneak up or down to 15 meters, which is easy to make a wire antenna for, or 10 meters, which is easy to make a wire antenna for. And it'll be like going to the park. It'll be like going to Yosemite in the wide open spaces. You'll be able to have a conversation without lots of interference. It should be fun. So keep that in mind if those of you who are studying, or maybe you think, it's not worth it. It will be worth it. So do that. We'd like to talk to you on the air. 73, everybody, the old Tube Radio Network. From Fresno, California, Central California, saying good evening until next week.
Thanks, Dennis. Another great job.
Good night, OTR.
Good night in the audio stream. The 6L6 will be safe to touch here very shortly. And good night in the video side. Normally I turn off the radio side first, but I thought tonight I would save the video side for last. There you go. Let's turn off the effect lights. What else not turn off? I know. Let's do some mood lighting here. Hang on. All right, that's the side light. Oh, we still got a top light. Hold on. Now we've got the back light. No, I turned the back light off, so let's turn off the front light. As I break things here, because I can't see anymore. Now you can see all the flashing lights on the audio gear. You can hear the receiver going on. There's the tram in the background. There's the cool, nifty on-the-air light from SWL's 84, 86, 87, and 88 for the radio room here. The glowing lights from the FT, there it is, get my hand out of the way, from the FT102. And then all the audio gear. Then we can go with effects lights only. Anyway, good night, everybody, from the old tube. The old, as number one used to say, the old tired tube radio network. I know, okay, one more thing. Let's jump down I'm going to have to change the antenna. Let's see if we can get anybody on 75 meter AM on the Starduster. So I got to switch the antenna here. We're at 3880. Nothing. Is it that late? How can it be Saturday evening? And we don't have any AM radio. There's the guys on 3905. Not an AM carrier in sight. I'm ashamed. It's Saturday evening and nobody's on AM that I can hear on the West Coast. Not even a carrier on the East Coast. What's up with that? 75 meter phone here. Did everybody have a rough day? There's some guys at 3913. Lower sideband, of course.
This is about where it gets for a while.
All right, let's try 10 meter beacons. Shouldn't be anything. Not hearing any skip. Got a ground wave that comes in at 28,300. About 100 miles away. That's not even making it. Birdies. We're striking out here tonight. All right, the best we can do. We tried. Good night, everybody. The Old Tube Radio Network. Saying 73.